All right. Thank you all for joining us. The Columbian is pleased to welcome candidates for Mayor of Vancouver. I am Greg Jane, the editorial page editor at the Columbian, and I will let the other editorial board members introduce themselves. So to start with Scott and Jody.
So, I want to go first?
I'm Jody Campbell. Nice to see both of you.
I'm Scott Campbell, recently retired publisher of the Columbian and still a member of the editorial board.
Thank you. Ben?
Ben Campbell, publisher of the Columbian. Thank you, Doug and Anne, for being here today.
And Craig?
I'm Craig Brown. I'm the editor of the Columbian.
Let's see. As Amy mentioned previously, we are recording this. We will post it unedited on our website and our YouTube channel. And I should mention that there is a third candidate in this race, Earl Bowerman. He was invited to join us and he declined to join us in this forum. So with that, we can get started. Why don't you take just 1 to 2 minutes, introduce yourselves, explain why you are running, and then we'll get into specific policy issues. And let's start with Doug.
Yes, I'm Doug Coop, running for the mayor position, City of Vancouver. So I thank you. So guys, the reason I'm running is because, hey, I'm an America First candidate. And I want to see the changes going on in our city, and I don't want to capitulate to wrong thinking. I want common sense policies. I'm not here to tear down anybody, but I want to be able to lead people in a way that my voice is heard clearly. It's heard, and I want to stand up for the people of Vancouver because we've heard silence over this past year during this whole COVID thing. And as mayor, I would have stood up and said and called news briefings, got them out and said, hey, we're not listening to all this garbage coming down from up north, from these edicts that are unconstitutional. So that's why I'm running. It's plain and simple.
Thank you. Anne?
Good morning. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Anne McEnery-Ogle, Mayor for the City of Vancouver. And I would like to continue the work that we have been doing to keep Vancouver moving forward. We made it through the pandemic. We made it through a recession, political unrest for racial justice. And I've worked diligently to keep Vancouver moving forward so that it's vibrant, it's safe, it's a welcoming and prosperous city. During my time on council and as the mayor, the city has saved millions in debt. We've supported comprehensive street funding programs in the Vancouver homelessness plan. We have been continuing to work with our large and small businesses. We continue to build fire stations. We're working on a strategic plan for all of our new facilities. And we are a thriving community. People are jumping at every opportunity to come and be with us, join us, both living, working, playing, and shopping. I want to continue that work.
Great, thank you. And again, thanks to both of you for joining us. I want to start out with, Doug, you mentioned the pandemic. So what do you mean by you would have stood up to the edicts? Would you have told Vancouver businesses to ignore the edicts from the state?
Yeah, you're going to find out a lot of information, and it's coming to light, but we knew about this early last year. There's a lot of misinformation going on, and I'll call it more of a scam-demic. Okay, what happened to a couple of weeks to flatten the curve and all this stuff? No, you're going to find out a lot of information coming out.
So would you have told Vancouver businesses to ignore the?
It's their choice. That edict was unconstitutional, number one. Most important, because the businesses have a choice. He does not have the right to just arbitrarily keep businesses shut down, to keep churches shut down. I mean, here on one side, you say that there's separation of church and state, right? When it's convenient for them. But then they have the right to say, churches, now we're involved and we're going to shut you down. Where's the justice in that?
Okay, thanks. Anne, how do you think the city responded? Was it effective? Where do we go from here?
Absolutely. So following the CDC and the governor's guidelines, we continue to work with all of our residents and businesses on this. I shot videos 2 to 3 every month on COVID recovery and giving the impacts of what COVID was doing to our businesses, small businesses, and bringing people up to date on what the governor's guidelines were and those emergency proclamations. And as part of the small businesses, we're continuing to recover, but the city jumped in with all of our resources to help them with all of the parklets. You saw us changing codes and waivers so that businesses could come out into the street and set up outdoor seating arrangements. We were the pass-through for various grants. We also use city general funds for grants for some of those small businesses, and we're continuing to do that. We're refunding those small businesses that were heavily impacted by COVID by refunding their business license surcharge fees and those employee fees. So we were instrumental in helping set up the testing and the vaccination sites up at Tower Mall, facilities that we had access to, and we partnered with the county who took on those responsibilities and worked with them.
Okay. Thank you. Want to follow up, just Doug, would you go so far as to say the entire pandemic was a hoax?
No, there's an actual virus that was created in a lab in Wuhan. Yeah, we all know that. But it's not that tragic. They've hyped this thing beyond explanation.
When you say they, who do you mean?
I'm talking about the media. I'm talking about political figures. They've used this to their advantage. All you have to do is do the research. You'll find it.
Okay. Craig, you want to ask anything?
Sure. So, unfortunately, Mr. Bowerman isn't with us today, but I'm wondering, Doug, how you differentiate yourself from his candidacy. He's a conservative person. Would you consider yourself more conservative than Mr. Bowerman, or kind of in the middle between him and Anne McEnery-Ogle, or how? So where are you at on the spectrum, I guess?
On the spectrum, yes, I am a conservative. I am a personal rights candidate. I am a God and country candidate. So I put all my decision making and everything that I learn and understand comes through the knowledge of Jesus Christ. And I'm not ashamed to say it.
Okay, and so how is that? What would you and Mr. Bowerman disagree on, or what would you advocate that he does not?
I don't know what he disagrees. I agree with a lot of the things that he stands for,
Okay.
But I don't know if he has the fortitude to stand up and make his voice heard. I mean, I'm not going to sit silently behind closed doors and everything stays shut down. That's ridiculous. I'm going to stand up and get involved with the people and get their voices heard. What is affecting them really? Because the people that I talk to, they're not happy. They're not happy with all this political shutdown and kowtowing to the forces that be. That's not right. People who are led by a spirit of fear, they are not people who should be leading a free people. Plain and simple. If you're operating constantly out of a spirit of fear for all the things that are going on, you should not be leading a free people. People need to express their voices, and I want to be that voice to the free people.
And one thing to follow up on that, you say people you talk with, this is how.
Yeah, the general
community. About this. So what community organizations or community leadership are you involved with?
Oh, I'm involved in a lot of the church community. I'm involved in homeless community. I stand out on every Wednesday down at St. John's and feed the homeless. I'm down at Share House every fourth Saturday of the month, feeding the homeless, talking with them, praying with them, ministering to them.
Okay. And that provides a good segue.
And Patriot Group.
Anne, how is the city addressing homelessness? What more needs to be done?
So Greg, I'm sure you saw that the city came out with the homeless resource coordinator, and Jamie Spinelli and Tyler Chavers in our HEART program have prepared a homeless plan. Part of that plan means that we're working in partnership with the county so that the county takes the leadership role in that. But part of it is the distribution of their mail for homelessness, the expansion of Talking Trash. That's our group that goes out into 60 plus different neighborhoods and locations throughout the city to pick up garbage. And then the safe park area that we have out at the transit centers where people are parked in their RVs and trailers and such. And that has been going on through the entire pandemic. That's going well. So we want an additional safe park. But we're also looking at supported campsites. And that is to limit the tents per site. We have some locations throughout the city. It would be contracted with a nonprofit for operations. And then we would have a camp resident employed for management. We would provide fencing and screening and garbage and services on site. And then we would have the opportunity to work with those individuals to get them into more permanent housing. We're hoping to have one of those by September and 3 by the end of the year.
And will there be a mental health component to that?
There is, Jody, and part of that is what we call the street treatment team. Columbia River Mental Health is helping with that process. That's the county's role in that. So not just mental health, but any medical treatment, if you would, for wounds and high blood pressure and all of those types of opportunities, along with housing assessments.
Thanks.
Doug, what do you think about the supported campsites idea?
I'm not for setting up more campsites all around neighborhoods. No, I'm for intervention. Because
and what's that mean?
Intervention is going to the people individually and helping them get out of the situation. Resources, I agree with my buddy Ray Reynolds, who's running for Clark County Sheriff in this and calling it a NET program where we institute faith leaders, business leaders, medical leaders. What are you talking about? Psychiatric care, getting intervention off of drugs, all these things, housing, putting the money to use to help these people individually, one by one, because keeping them in camps is like keeping people in concentration camps. You'll never get out of it. I'm not here to promote more camps, but we want to have intervention centers, so to speak. I know Washington State had so-called intervention centers, and there probably needs to be more of those where we take the people, individuals, for their own responsibility and say, hey, you want to get out of this? You want to get out of this homeless situation? Well, we've got the resources to get you back on your feet. And it's going to take some time. I'm not naive to this because I deal with homeless people. So it's going to take individual people taking them and say, you want to get out of this? We have the resources. Let's hook up. We should have one phone number, okay? Because one phone number where they're able to call and get the resources that they need, not trying to find different places and hook up with different community organizations, but one phone number that would hook them up to this whole system. It's called a NET system. So they don't have to go searching for different avenues and different remedies. Let's do this as a unity, as a one source solution, and get them the help that they need. And if they don't want to, okay, let's not keep promoting more homeless camps. That's not the answer. I don't want to be like Portland and Seattle.
Isn't it easier to do that, to get those services to people, if there are some centralized places?
Centralized. One number that you call, you give them that.
No, but I mean places where they can be.
Yeah,
the supported campsites.
Yeah, there's places where you can set up to have that. And
so that sounds like the supported campsites that the city is pursuing.
Nah, supported campsites. I think there's buildings and facilities rather than just campsites that you can engage in. Okay, we'll be looking at that.
Okay.
I know that up north they have facilities, they have abandoned school campuses. I know of one elementary school campus that's up close by the Vancouver Mall. They've let that thing go and they're building a new campus. I mean, take these and then they need to be secure places where people can go, where they can get the help, they can have the restroom facilities, they can restore personal honor and value back into their lives and not be, if you have camps, okay, people get attacked in these camps. What are you going to do? Have security officers? You're going to put the police in those camps to be security guards for that? I mean, no, you need to have a recognized facility where you can do that and then get the intervention for these people and get them back to be prosperous citizens again. I mean, there's all kinds of people from young age. You have older people who are in these camps. They're getting attacked. They're getting their stuff.
Okay, and I'm going to stop you there. Thank you. It's obviously a big issue, but we do
Yes,
want to
it
move
is.
on. Doug, at a candidate forum recently, you expressed some doubts about climate change. What is your stance on climate change?
What is my stance on climate change? Climate changes all the time. I got news for you. Go back and look in history.
So
It
do you
all-
think that, do you think human activity is contributing to it?
No. Go look at the statistics. It doesn't plan out.
Okay, so so you think that this week's temperatures were just part of the normal cycle?
You have these cycles throughout history. What are you going to do about the Dust Bowl? You're going to say that was caused by climate? You're going to carbon credits that you have to? No, please. You could have sunspots. You could have volcanoes go off that would ultimately change your climate continually. Did you know that February, March, April, May, one volcano went off around the world on all 4 months? Now, what if a volcano goes off up here in the Pacific Northwest? What are you going to do? You're going to go talk to the volcano and say, hey, you got to give me carbon credits. This is absurd.
Okay. And is the city doing enough for climate change or too much?
We're right at the beginning of working on our climate action plan. If you would, we took a look at those emissions, the greenhouse gases and the transmission or transportation emissions. And excuse me, but I'm still talking, Doug. Thank you. And looking at the opportunity on how we can take a look at our own work with emissions. For example, our fleet and the water service and sewer and all of those. But what can we do with our own opportunities, with our construction that's coming up and with our fleet to work on the climate action plan? We're right at the beginning of this. We have staff working on it, working with the community and collecting information and moving it forward. We should have an update on that here in the month of July.
So Doug, just one word answer. Should the city pursue a climate action plan?
No.
Okay. I'm curious
And
about.
they also attacked Northwest Natural, one of the cleanest burning fuels out there.
We're going to move on.
Yeah.
I'm curious, in this case, more about the process rather than the outcome. But two recent issues that came up are the Columbia Street paving, bike lanes, and the Tower Mall Heights development. Regardless of the outcome or the opinions on that, what do you think about the process? Did the city approach that effectively? What could they have done better, or what did they do well? And we'll start with Doug.
I'm not too much in line or following that right now because I'm the new guy on the block here, so I have a lot to learn as far as the business community. But I think there's wisdom in a multitude of counselors, so that's what the Bible says. And I say, get the business community together. If they all agree, then I'm for it.
Okay, Anne?
In each of those, I think the strategy that we're working on now was one that we could have used on both of those projects, and that is what we call a project charter. where we set out the charter to begin with, and then different benchmarks in phases as we go through. We're doing that process in our operations center. But as we look at each one of these projects, the council, for example, took a complete streets policy and passed it, and the implementation happens on McLaughlin and on Columbia Street, and you know that we're paving that right now. The Heights project has been in its third, almost 3.5 years of work, and that had several different benchmarks. As we move forward, we're in phase 2 right now. As we look at the HX zoning and all of those, we continue to have a very robust citizen engagement and business engagement. The community around, all of the different neighborhoods, the churches, the businesses that are within that zone, working with them, negotiating, talking with them, making changes, and then going through that 3-step process. After the community taking it to the planning commission has 3 touches on it: workshop, public hearing, and such. Then those recommendations go to city council, again, public engagement, 3 touches, workshop, and then the 2 steps for the public hearing. So as we're getting ready, you probably realize that we've closed down the vaccination site up at Tower Mall. And now we are putting out the request for the demolition of Tower Mall and are moving forward with that.
Okay. Doug, in general, are you in favor of the Heights redevelopment?
Am I in favor of it?
Uh-huh.
I would have to talk to the Heights people.
Okay.
I want to know what their interaction is, and I haven't been able to address that. But hey, if they're on board, then I'm on board with them.
How familiar are you with the plan? Do you know what it would do?
I'm not that familiar with the plan. Like I said, I'm the new guy here. So I haven't been involved in the political portion of what goes on in the city.
Okay.
I'm just being honest. I mean, that's
I appreciate that.
I'm not going to sit here and make stuff up.
Believe me, some candidates do that.
I'm not that guy. Sorry.
Anybody else have a question?
I guess I have one more question. Vancouver's changed a lot in the last decade or so. What is your vision for what the city would be like in a decade from now if we were to have this conversation then? Anne, do you want to go first?
Sure. So in the last decade, we've grown by nearly 30,000 individuals. And I was just looking at the numbers that will be going out today. We are just a smidgen under 195,000. So if we continue at this rate and with annexation, we could be the 2nd largest city in the state of Washington, which means a whole nother opportunity for us. In that, as people are moving in, we're also looking not just as residential developments, but long-term economic developments. As you are aware, we have several quarries on the east side of town that are filling in. So in 10 years, I'll expect the Vancouver Clinic to completely build out their entire campus on the east side of 192nd and 14th. And then a whole new set of developments on the west side of that. Going up to Section 30, Hewlett-Packard will have their R&D campus completely built out by then. We should have nearly 3,000 jobs in that little facility as it is. But then I expect the rest of Section 30 to be filling in. That light industrial opportunity will be incredible and a number of different jobs. So in 10 years, I hope to have the I-5 bridge nearly ready for ribbon cutting, and our 3rd BRT going north and south through I-5 will have been implemented. We'll have transit and a stronger C-Tran process and network throughout the entire county. And we'll be continuing going up, not out, in residential. We'll see more 2, 3, and 4-story construction going up for residential.
Okay, thank you. Doug, what's your vision for a decade from now?
Well, I see the business community kind of coming together. There's a lot of structure needed for businesses that can come to one central center rather than going over to the Oregon side and paying the taxes over there, because everybody's working remotely. You can set up business centers to where they have a reception area, and they can have multiple businesses within those buildings, or call them the business centers, where they can focus, and entrepreneurs or small business people can have that as their base, even though they may be doing work online for the Oregon side, but keep those taxes from being paid to Oregon because they have to travel across the bridge. Now, I'm wondering where the bridge is going to be put. Are we going to go with the old rail system that's across from the port? Is that what you're thinking? Or can we have an alternative of maybe going under the river, like a channel? Those are a lot of different things to look at, because if you do that, we're talking about just a big machine, and you keep the unions out of it from mucking things up. So, and I'm just wondering about what about the Camas side going over? Are we talking about a bridge down the line to do that, to alleviate the traffic that happens on the 205 because of that? I think there should be some kind of a bridge system there that would help alleviate the traffic. And as far as other business, I'm on board for big business coming into Vancouver, and I agree with that totally.
Great, thank you. We'll move on now. Give us your final pitch for why voters should support you, and feel free to mention any prominent endorsements. We'll start with Doug.
Hey, I'm just the America First candidate, like I said. I just want transparent, honest government, and I want things to be spelled out to people. I don't want things to be done behind doors and in meetings. I want to be out there amongst the people. I mentioned something about having some kind of a communication system when things are proposed or things are brought up, to be able to get like an email blast out to people and see what the response of the communities are, whether it impacts a certain community or it impacts the city as a whole. But let's get this out to the people and let them know what's going on and let their voices be heard. That's all what I'm about, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Thank you, Anne.
Well, for the last 8.5 years, I have been out and about. Nearly every single neighborhood association that has had a Zoom meeting these last 18 months, I have attended. Before that, I tried to make every single neighborhood association meeting in person. All of the chambers of commerce, ICC, the CREDC, all of those different meetings and such across that are involved in small businesses. When we talk about communication, we have 27 different ways that we communicate. I prepared a white sheet that I hand out at Farmers Market every Saturday when I set up a little table at the corner. It has the mayor's update. On the front, it has different pieces. On the back, sometimes it's the homeless plan. Sometimes it's the city communication strategies. For example, the city has 8 Facebook, 4 Twitter, 5 Instagrams, 1 YouTube channel, 1 LinkedIn, 1 Nextdoor. We have press releases. We have CVTV. We have City 5. We have Vancouver Connects. We have a staff member at every single neighborhood association that shares all of the news from the city and asks for feedback. We have traditional print called the Messenger. We have the My Vancouver app that has all of that information on it. And when it comes time for campaigns, we're required by law, but we also reach out to all of those neighborhoods in the vicinity. We have surveys and SurveyMonkey. We also have what we call the resident engagement van that goes out. It's a wrap van. It goes to picnics and all of the different neighborhood events. But we also sit down, and our staff sits down with those neighborhoods and those groups that are out there wondering about the development in their neighborhood, in their vicinity. So I want to continue the work that we have been doing. We're making Vancouver prosperous. We're making it safe. We're making it welcoming for all of the diverse individuals that we have. Right now that we're open, you can see the vibrancy that this is coming back, and we're very excited about that. But I'm also endorsed by a number of former politicians, yes, but also a number of unions, including the police and the fire, but also residents, leaders of neighborhood associations, and business owners throughout. So you can go to my website, voteann.com, and you can see the list of all the donors and endorsers who also think Vancouver is a thriving gem and that we want to continue working on all of those different projects.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Thanks to both of you.
Thank
Good luck.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everybody.